You wake up to silence. No one's waiting on you. No notifications, no applause, no hand reaching out to say, "You've got this." The world has moved on, and you're just there. Your dreams, unnoticed. Your pain, unacknowledged. Your struggle, invisible. You step outside, and everything is in motion. Cars rushing, people scrolling, clocks ticking. But none of it stops for you. Not even for a second. You're gasping under the weight of your ambitions, and yet no one sees it. No one cares how many nights you've stayed awake rehearsing your future. No one's clapping for your self-discipline. No one's counting your failures but you. And maybe that's the most haunting part. You've been told that hard work is the key, that if you just show up, someone, somewhere, will eventually notice. But what if they don't? What if the door never opens? What if the light never turns green? What if your grind is met with silence, not resistance, not ridicule, just indifference? What if the world isn't hostile, but apathetic? This isn't about failure. Failure has a pulse. It at least screams when you fall. This is about the slow, agonizing death of expectation, when you give your all and the world simply doesn't flinch. No celebration, no validation, no recognition. And in that void, the question crashes into you like a cold wave. If nobody cares, why should I? You stand there drenched in doubt, tempted to quit, not because it's too hard, but because it feels meaningless. Your efforts are met with the same silence whether you act or remain still. So what's the point? But here's where the paradox cuts deeper. The moment you begin to expect something in return, applause, attention, acknowledgement, you've already handed over your power. You're no longer the master of your path. You've become its hostage, waiting for external confirmation to keep moving. Is that freedom? Or is it just another prison, disguised as ambition? And yet, we cling to the belief that someone out there must care, that if we work hard enough, long enough, loud enough, someone will take notice. But what if that belief is the very thing chaining us to mediocrity? What if the most liberating truth is also the most brutal? Nobody cares. Work harder, not because it will make them care, but because it might make you stop needing them to. Let that sink in. The grind isn't just a test of endurance. It's a stripping away of illusions. The illusion that the world owes you something. The illusion that talent guarantees recognition. The illusion that discipline is always rewarded. In this world, millions suffer silently in the shadows of their potential. Some grow bitter, blaming the system, the timing, the luck they never had. Others vanish. Not physically, but mentally, spiritually. They become spectators of their own lives, watching from the sidelines, hoping the game will somehow bend to them. But then there's a different kind, a rare breed. The one who accepts the cold truth. Nobody's coming. No cavalry, no lifeboat, no fairy godmother. Just sweat, time, and the sharp edge of self-determination. This is not a message of despair. It's a warning, and it's a key. Because the moment you embrace this truth, not just intellectually, but viscerally, something in you breaks, something hollow, something that was waiting for the world to care before you gave it your all. And once that breaks, something stronger replaces it. You stop negotiating with reality. You stop waiting for signs. You start building, pushing, bleeding into your craft. Not for applause, but because it's who you are when no one's watching. You stop asking, will this be enough for them? And you start asking, will this be enough for me? But before you can reach that power, you have to go through the fire of disillusionment. You have to stare into the void of indifference and refuse to blink. You must let the silence echo and still move forward, because that's where the real work begins. Not the kind you post, not the kind that wins likes, but the kind you do when the lights are off and no one will ever know. The kind of work that transforms you. So here's the real question. What would you do if no one ever cared? Would you still chase the dream? Would you still wake up early, train hard, build relentlessly, knowing that it might never be seen, never be praised? Would you still do it if the only witness was you? Because if the answer is yes, if you can still grind in the dark, cry without comfort, and keep going without recognition, then you've found something unbreakable. Not motivation, not discipline, freedom. But why is this truth so hard to accept? Why do we crave acknowledgement like oxygen? Why is the silence so unbearable? To answer that, we must go deeper, into the unseen chambers of the human psyche, into the very roots of identity, worth, and validation. And that is where we go next. At the core of our craving for recognition lies a quiet desperation, one so old, so embedded, that most never even question it. From the moment you were born, the world mirrored your worth back to you. A smile from a parent, a gold star in school, applause for reciting a line correctly. These small reinforcements form the scaffolding of your identity. Your value, piece by piece, was outsourced to the reactions of others. You didn't just learn who you were, you learned who you were to others. So what happens when that mirror breaks? When no one reflects your value back? When your efforts vanish into the void? You start to vanish too. Carl Jung called it the persona, the mask we create to function in society, to be accepted, to belong. But the mask is addictive. It becomes our face, and behind it, the true self rots, unfed, unacknowledged, and eventually forgotten. But it's not just psychology. The hunger for validation runs deeper into the marrow of human nature itself. Nietzsche spoke of the will to power, the driving force beneath all action, all striving, all becoming. But power isn't just domination or control. Sometimes it's as subtle as the hope that someone, somewhere, sees you and deems you worthy. We disguise this hunger with noble labels, purpose, passion, ambition. But underneath, there's a raw animal scream. Please see me. Please tell me I matter. Yet no amount of applause can permanently silence that scream, because the applause always fades. The crowd always moves on. The moment is always fleeting. And then you're left with yourself again, naked, uncelebrated. That's when the truth sets in. Validation is borrowed, discipline is owned. But most people never get there. They're stuck in the echo chamber of social conditioning. We are born into a system that commodifies identity. Schools teach obedience more than creativity. Social media teaches comparison more than authenticity. And work environments reward perception more than substance. You're not encouraged to become your fullest self. You're trained to become the most palatable version of yourself. Just enough to be accepted, never enough to be free. Arthur Schopenhauer warned that life is not designed for happiness, but for struggle. That our desires renew themselves endlessly, like a flame consuming its own fuel. The moment you reach a goal, it vanishes into the next craving. Like a mirage, fulfillment dances just out of reach, forever teasing, never delivering. And so, we chase recognition, not because it satisfies, but because it distracts us from the silence of our own being. Jean-Paul Sartre took it even further. In his existential framework, existence precedes essence. You are not born with meaning, you create it. But that creation requires radical responsibility, and most people aren't ready for that weight. It's easier to hand that burden to others. Tell me who I am. Tell me I'm enough. Tell me I matter. But when you hand your identity to others, you become a prisoner of their silence. Think about it. How many dreams die because no one cheered? How many people walk away from their calling because the crowd didn't show up? How many extraordinary lives are never lived because someone was waiting for permission? This isn't weakness, it's design. A system that feeds on compliance cannot tolerate inner sovereignty. And so, it trains you from birth to seek approval, to fear rejection, to measure worth externally. You are taught to be liked, not to be free. But there's a deeper fracture. It lives in the quiet moments. When the hustle fades, the screen goes dark, and you're left with yourself. That hollow ache, that's not failure, that's disconnection. Aldous Huxley warned that in the future people wouldn't be enslaved by force, but by pleasure, by comfort, by distraction, by the illusion of freedom. And he was right. We are comfort-addicted, attention-dependent, dopamine-driven shells of who we were meant to be. You scroll not because you're curious, but because you're afraid of the stillness. You post not because you need to share, but because you need to be seen. You work not because the work itself fuels you, but because you're afraid of what it says about you if you stop. This is the hidden war, not between success and failure, but between integrity and image. Who are you when there's no one watching? Who are you when no one claps? Who are you when the world forgets your name? Viktor Frankl, a man who survived Auschwitz, said it best. Life is never made unbearable by circumstances, but only by lack of meaning and purpose. And yet, how can you find meaning when the meaning has always been filtered through external reaction? You can't. Not until you confront the root. Not until you stop running. Not until you look in the mirror and realize that everything you've ever chased was already inside you, waiting. Not to be praised, but to be chosen.